Okay, I'm going to call the August 19th, 2024 meeting of the Fairport Industrial Development Agency to order and ask if there's public comment. Seeing none, hearing no, I'll close public comment. Move to approval of the July 15th IDA meeting minutes.
I move to approve those minutes.
I will second.
Any discussion or correction on those? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Move on to financials, resolution 2024-08, authorizing payment of the IDA bills.
I reviewed the IDA bills and I would recommend moving that payment.
I'll second with
Any questions?
note of the obviously the large line item. Want to make sure that.
Thomas Creek.
Yep, and that was fitting based on what you reviewed, Rick.
Yep.
We did include a 10% retainage, for things like the plants and so forth, that some of them aren't quite, we already need a couple replaced and so forth, but we did include a retainage.
So that is a final payment less retainage.
Correct.
Any other questions regarding those bills? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just a note, I'll be submitting for our $50,000 grant from New York State.
Yep.
Okay. Financials and cash balances, financials and investment reports. You'll notice that this has been kind of abbreviated a little bit, and not all of the information that had been sent to us previously is going to be included on here on out, but certainly if we need anything, it's available to us, and if we see that this summarized version is not working for us, we can go back to the other way. It involves some state regulations and things.
Right.
That
It's just a more concise way to present the loan packet or these packages. But I think that all the information is there, but if you need more details behind it, yep, happy.
is available. Anybody have any question on any of the financials? Okay. 1 minute. All right. We can go on to old business and get an update from Tom Wolanski regarding the Thomas Creek Wetlands Entrance Project.
That's not, we're not using that, no.
Okay. We can. Thank you. Now we definitely won't use it.
Exactly. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to update the board. We are substantially complete with the project as originally designed. I don't know if you've had a chance to go out and look at it and such, but feel we met the core of the responsibilities associated with the original project. If you recall, we're looking to update the parking lot. It was overgrown and in need of attention, and preserve the natural beauty and enhancements and enhance it to try to retain that the look, the feel associated with it. We were trying to also improve the pedestrian and cyclist safety coming through there. We went through the social media campaign and the public participation meetings that we had here, as well as Junction 361, to talk about that, and met with a lot of different people and got a lot of different viewpoints and such, and that was very, very important.
And we had ped counts and bike counts too.
And we got GTC involved, associated with the analytics to support that also. So with that, we looked at the design, and as I said, restoring the natural setting associated with that, prioritization of the pedestrian, the cyclists within the site. And we looked at the commercial traffic and such that was actually perceived, and I've had follow-up discussions with a number of different people, DPW and Matt on this, and looking at, we heard there was potentially tractor trailers that are coming down there and turning around in there. We did tractor trailer movements through there. And if you look at the original design and what we ultimately came up with, we provided additional room, but that was never the intent of the design to try to do that. And the power pole was to remain in place for this project with the costs associated and such for this. And the basic understanding was it was a maintenance project to update the parking lot. So we went through and utilized the grid systems, rearranged the parking to provide a one-way traffic around it. The parking lot coming in counterclockwise around the site to it, and minimize the overall parking and increase the number of handicap spaces to it. So we started construction, went out there, and FMC came out and said, we have trouble with the pole, and they moved ahead and through discussions wanted to remove the pole and install 2 additional poles on either side of the parking lot. So they're proceeding with that. They've gone through and cleared a little bit of an area along their fence line, and we'll be installing the poles tomorrow. I met with Matt today and talked to him about that. And we'll have the line work and the remaining work done within a week or so of after the pole's being relocated. With that pole being removed from the parking lot, that provides us as an opportunity to realign some of the parking also and simplify some of that also. So in speaking with Martha and our designers, we're looking at taking that opportunity and actually eliminating one of the handicap spots that are right adjacent to the on the north side of the parking lot, adjacent to the wetlands, the single space there, and put in some angled parking spaces there. We'll still have 2 handicap spots, which we feel is sufficient for this park, and take that opportunity, and we'll have the area around without any constraints associated with people circulating, but it's still not intended for commercial traffic or trucks running through there. So that'll address that. So we'll be looking at, once the pole is removed, we're going to take a step back and reassess it, look at both the parking alignments of those couple spaces and some of the signage associated with that. And speaking with Jason, he reviewed the plans, but once you go out to the field and see the actual project, and as you enter the Thomas Creek wetlands on the right-hand side, we put in that sidewalk in, removed a guide rail to do that, and felt that the delineation between at that split needed some additional enhancements, and he suggested planting a tree at that point. So I discussed that with Martha, and we're proceeding as part of the ultimate changes to add that tree there, and we bounced that off of Jason. He agrees with that. There's also a manhole, Pure Water's manhole in there that had been covered, and we'll be raising that also to address any concerns there. Martha has some signage examples, which we
well, they're on your, I put them on your handouts there. That's kind of the last draft there. We added the
so that sign's not up.
That's not up yet. No,
yeah.
But I'm very close. I think we've seen that a couple of designs.
Yeah,
we narrowed it down. We added the no
that.
truck traffic sign as well, and I think I'd like to move forward on that particular sign. I'm working with GPI on the main sign within the wetlands, and Joel, the local sign person, it's a different product that he doesn't work with. So we're gonna have to go outside, maybe to iZone or some of those other places, but working with GPI to help me finish that up.
Mhm.
And then we decided, and we had talked about putting a one-way sign like on a post or whatever, but we're gonna end up just with a arrow on the side, on the pavement. So, and we think that once people get used to it, it looks vastly different, and it's new and innovative. So it's taking some people time to adjust to it. But I think once we get there, the less little things we can add in, the better. You know. So overall, it's still a great project.
Yeah.
So.
And I coordinated with Jason associated with that sign and talked to him about the one-way, actually the sign or painting an arrow on the roadway on the asphalt portion there. And he suggested the arrow on the pavement would be better in his opinion for that area.
It's funny when you look at the plan and then you go out and see it built. It's different.
Yeah.
It's really different, and it's great to have an opportunity to take a second look at it.
We're working on the ultimate punch list, as Martha had mentioned. There's a number of plants that have not survived some of the dry stretches that we had and such, so they're on the punch list. We have all the boulders and such, and we're looking to beef up some of the landscaping within the center parking areas, move some of the larger boulders in that area, and the plantings that will be replacing the ones that died out.
Do you remember one of the things we did was cut back on the plantings in order to come in under budget, but when you have those islands there, they just don't have mass. So we've got plenty of stones that we think we can relocate to just further give visual clues.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right after this, I've got a Rotary meeting, and with regards to Rotary, we have installed the handicap accessible picnic bench on the site, and really appreciate Fairport Electric's help drilling the hole for the base, and DPW's help in installing the stone dust pad that it's on. And we didn't expect it, but they actually installed and assembled the picnic table, which is very much appreciated. And what I'm going to be presenting at the board meeting after our regular meeting tonight at Rotary is that we take on a service project and help with the butterfly garden and doing some of the weeding and fall cleanup and such for the butterfly garden, which is needed.
Right. The garden is thriving, but it's choked out a few things, some of the plants, and we hope to engage the landscape architect who helped us out with that, appeal to his generous nature to help us through that. But it's not attractive right now. So I'm hoping the Rotary will help us out with it, and I'll be out there.
That would be appreciated.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So I'm open to any questions.
I had a question about the signage, because is there a thought that you have, Tom, about before a commercial truck gets here and sees this, knowing where this is going to be? Any thoughts or ideas on signage further back before they would get to that point of no return, where we might head that off before they get there?
I previously had several discussions with Mandy and Jason about it, and I've had a follow-up discussion this morning where we went through the whole thing, and I was sitting down going through a lot of this with Jason. Mm-hmm. And then he yelled over to Mandy in the other office, and I asked the question, when's the last time a truck actually did that?
Okay.
And we went back and forth, and really they couldn't recall. And sure, it's happened, and through Google these days with directions and such, and people following just the direction and not looking where they're going. They said, yeah, but Jason was against adding additional signage, and because one, it doesn't happen that often. And secondly, we're just kind of, I'll use the word, polluting the roadway with that additional signage, and will it help in any way? Because the reality of it is we do have the trucks for Fairport Electric going through there. The Parker Street Bridge is a constraint relative to the loading going across that bridge. So the sign itself would have to be further back, probably by Donnelly's.
Sure. Sure.
And if you look at and notice any of the truck traffic through there, which I've done, they normally go through the Fairport Electric's visitors parking lot, and there are 3/4 length trucks that do the deliveries in the area, come up, go through the parking lot, circle out of it, come up Water Street and do unloading, at least the Donnelly's there. And I think for Mulconnery's and such, they use the other parking lots to get around, but that's how they get through that area.
Okay.
So it's been discussed and going back and forth, and I tend to agree with Jason and going back and forth, but just to try to reinforce it on that we have no trucks in that area.
One last notice. That makes sense.
Exactly.
No, it sounds like all the right folks have all the right conversations about it. I maybe misunderstood. When you mentioned it earlier, I thought you mentioned it being an ongoing significant problem. It sounds like that is not the case, so perfect.
No.
Thank you.
Nothing for me.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
Looking forward to hearing back from you tomorrow.
Yep, exactly.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Is there any other old business for IDA? Anyone?
Just if we need action on this.
No, I think I circulated it, it's part of our budget,
Cool.
but I just didn't know if, I'd circulated it before and we had a lot of good comments back, and that's where we're landing, unless there's any objections.
No, all good. Just wasn't sure if you needed anything.
Yep, and that
formal
would
to do
be Turning Point signs.
But not the main entrance, not the main sign.
Not the main sign, not the informational sign.
So that remains to be completed
Yes.
under contract,
Yes,
correct?
yes. That's actually a leftover from prior project, the Erie Canal Way National Heritage Corridor one.
All good.
Okay, any other old business for IDA? Moving on to new business, we have Pat Rapp joining us to give us the social media website updates. We all received a package in our packet, and as well as an updated one that was furnished to us.
So there's more here than we have.
The ones on in paper are updated to reflect new activity related to our website, our advertising and
advertising.
boosting.
Right,
Okay.
I just did a quick, I should update you about the ads and how they're going, so
Cool.
I tacked on 4 pages, apologies for that. Thank you for having me here. I've got my copy on my phone, so I'm actually not goofing off on my phone, I'm looking at my report. So I've been doing the report quarterly, I'm tracking the statistics constantly, but coming to you every 3 months. So in this report, what we're looking at is January to June, and basically breaking it out into the first and second quarter, just to get a view of how things are growing. Our website users, as you can see, the first quarter we had 2,200, and second quarter we had 3,000. So that's a steady increase.
Are those unique users
These are,
or visits?
they call them active users. So these are basically unique users.
Unique.
Each quarter.
Really?
So
That's interesting.
That's
So
what Google tells me. So I have to tell you, Google Analytics has, every time, my entire career, every so often, I have to completely relearn how to pull together data because everybody keeps changing how they present the data. So it used to be you'd have total users, new users, returning users. Now it just says, basically says users and new users, and it says that they're all new. So I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. Same thing with Facebook and Twitter. All of them, they change the presentation of the data constantly. So, but as far as I could tell, active users means how many people are actually hitting the website.
Okay.
And what I think it's tracking is, like, you might be checking from your phone and also checking from your home computer, and they may count as two. So that's something I want to dig into a little bit so I get a better understanding of that.
But regardless, in your opinion, the second quarter traffic is higher
Yes.
than the first
Yes,
quarter.
we are seeing an increase for the second quarter. The next page is the actual hits to the website, and this is a lot more clear cut. This is how many times has the server served a page to a user. So this gives us a better idea of how much use is coming, going up on the website. Like somebody might go to one page and to another, and it counts each of those as a page view.
Okay.
So if you view 4 different pages, it's going to show 4 different times, for example. And we've got an increase in that. We're up from 6,000 to 7,000. So they're not huge changes, but they're still moving in the right direction. Event counts are every time something happens, a page is served, if somebody clicks on a link to a PDF or clicks on an image, scrolling for a certain amount of time, all of these things are considered events, and Google tracks those as well, and those are also up over the first quarter. One thing that I had to look into because I thought, what is that blip? So on January 12th, there's a big jump. We had 256 users that day, and so I went back. I looked to see where those users were coming from, and 58% of them came from Facebook. And it turns out that was the first time that we posted on Facebook a link to sign up for the newsletter.
Great.
So we had a little bit of traffic that day. Our top 10 pages, interesting to note that the Section 8 housing page is consistently the most popular page on the site. The number 2 page is the actual home page. And Section 8's getting a lot more traffic than that. So that leads me to believe that content is very valuable. People are looking for it. And it's actually, when I look to see what search terms people are using to get to the website, the most Googled term is Fairport Section 8, and the third most is Section 8 Fairport, New York. So people are actively looking at that, and when those results are brought up on Google, there's a 76% click rate. So people are saying, oh, there's what I need, and they're clicking on it, where other pages that people Google might get like 30% click rate. So Section 8 is a big deal. And, the next page, I'd like to know where our users came from. I don't know if that's interesting to you, but to me, I find it interesting. Google is always going to be the number one. It's just how people find us. The second one there is the direct, where people just type in fairportosed.org. And then these other ones I find interesting to note that we get a lot of hits from Facebook. We get some hits that are coming directly from 13 WAM News, which I think is interesting. And we're starting to get some hits from affordable housing online.com and HUD. So that means that people are going to that site and then coming to our site. So those are the ones I thought were worth noting on there.
Mhm.
The next page, our Facebook followers are steadily increasing from 487 to 545. Again, not huge jumps, but we're moving in the right direction. And Facebook interactions are things like likes, comments, and shares, and those are also increasing. And it's on the Fairport Said site on the Section 8 Facebook page. We have fewer followers, but they are also increasing, and increasing with the interactions, especially the second quarter. We had a really big jump this week. The second quarter, we were focused a lot on attainable housing and making a lot of important data or important information on social media, and that shows that people were interested in that. Our Instagram followers are up, not by a lot, but they're still going up. And Instagram interactions are significantly up, probably almost 50%. No, not almost
Can you
50%.
tell which, you can tell which posts get the most, or
I can. I didn't do that.
No,
for this,
but-
I will. I can do that for next time.
or whatever, just
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what people are reacting to.
Yeah, because the audience is very different
Yes,
on Instagram compared to Facebook or LinkedIn.
yes,
Anything
yeah.
like that. So I can do that. And I can also, anytime anybody says, can you find out how this or that is doing, I'm happy to
Mhm.
take notes and get back to you on that. Twitter is kind of a weird animal right now. We only increased our users or our followers by, about 19 people from one quarter to the next. And our usage is up and down, and I think that's just the nature of the beast right now. People are still using it, but I think not the way they're using Facebook and Instagram, because there's just a lot of, you have to wade through a lot of stuff to get to good stuff
Mhm.
on Twitter. So, but we are still getting usage there. On the MailChimp newsletters that go out every month, we've had a steady number of subscribers, about 840, and that's been almost constant since January, with slow, small increases. But what we were having trouble with was having people actually read the newsletters, and so seeing what's been going out and the lack of opening of the newsletter, I started digging into it and discovered that there's a glitch in the way some email programs manage this type of a newsletter, and a lot of it was going to spam. It was going into people's spam folders. So I worked with the IT department for the village, and he had to change some DNS settings, and then once that happened, the amount of newsletters that were actually opened and read increased significantly. So I was glad that we solved that problem. It was kind of a mystery for a while because it was just like flat 30%, 30%. So, and now we're up to about 60%. So we'll keep working on that. LinkedIn page views are doing really well. The followers are up 10% over the first quarter, and the page views are up 120% over the first quarter. We get a lot of engagement with people who are connected to Rochester Business Journal
Mhm.
and Chamber of Commerce and things like that. So seeing that, even though it's summer vacation, we're getting page views on this is good to see. Then looking at the ads, in June, in June, we did, sorry, I get so nervous when I do this kind of stuff. My voice is cracking. In June, we did an ad for the facade grants, and we only spent about $35. We had 187 link clicks, and we reached 3,300 people. So that was really, it was only 19 cents per click, basically. So it was really I think, a very small amount of money to spend to get attention. At that time, I was not able to see how many PDF downloads we were getting on that application in June. So I did some
Bless you.
tweaking. Bless you. Bless you.
Bless you.
I did some tweaking on the back end of the analytics, and then by the next one, when we did that a second time in August, we put up another ad because Martha wanted to be sure that people understood there was going to be an end to the program on September 30th. So we promoted it again, and at that point, we spent, I think, $140. We had a reach of 11,000 people and 1,000 link clicks. And just as an example of how many people actually downloaded the application, in the whole month of July, shortly after we did the first promotion, we had 4 applications downloaded. And then during the time of the second promotion, we had 8. So I think people said, oh, I better apply now because it's ending. But even though it's only 8 that actually downloaded the application, the fact that we reached 11,000 people, I think, is significant, because even if they're not going to use the facade grant, if it's just a community member, then all of a sudden they know, oh, that's what OSED does. Because I think there's still a lot of promotion that needs to be done so people understand what OSED is and what everybody does here. So this is a way for them to start wrapping their head around that. We ran a couple of ads for Section 8 in order to try to reach out to landlords. One of the things with Section 8 having the waiting list closed, I think, is due to not having any landlords who are able to accept new tenants. So reaching out to new landlords to try to get them to participate in the program was the goal. And so HUD put out a little video, a cartoon video where these characters basically explain the housing choice voucher program. And so we promoted that as an ad with a link to our website. And our page hits went up 143% on that page. So that seems like it was money well spent. Reached 8,000 people with 176 clicks on that one.
And when you do these ads, you're able to parse out the audience, right?
Yes. And so usually we keep it pretty tight to Fairport, like for OSED and things like that. But for this one, because Fairport Section 8 encompasses all of Eastern Monroe County, we spread out the audience. We expanded the audience to Eastern Monroe County and Macedon as well. And we did the same thing for the next one, which this was the one about finding viable tenants, just to get that word out there.
Again,
And
directed at the landlords.
directed at the landlords, and that our page hits went up 147% on that one. And this one we reached 23,000 people with 207 link clicks. So these are, I think the ads are working, and advertising through social media is very inexpensive as opposed to radio or any other medium.
Pat, before we move too far away from that, real quick, just on the cost per link,
Mhm.
obviously it looks like they're each different. Is the content itself driving that?
That is kind of hard to tell at this point. So I guess, so the way they serve these ads is we have an audience. So for example, this is Eastern Monroe County, and it put this ad in front of 23,000 people. And for that, it cost us $70. So the cost per click is that 23,000, no, I'm sorry.
So the cost
The
is the cost.
$70 divided by the 207.
That's just showing us a data point of our return, or the cost at the end of the day for the number of clicks, right?
Right.
That
right.
makes sense now. Okay,
Yeah.
it's $70,
$70 for the whole ad. And
77 for one of these. Gotcha. That's helpful.
yeah, and it's kind of strange the way they do the billing, because they'll put an ad out, wherever they think it's going to be most effective, and sometimes it ends up being like an odd number, like I said, we want to spend $70, and the bill came back and said $69.99. So,
Okay.
you know, or I say we want to spend 30, and then it comes back 27.81. It's just kind of random. That part is just like the Facebook thing, that mystery that.
We do the copy, or you do the copy for those ads, correct?
Right. I generally write them and run them by Martha, and
Then it goes to them.
Yeah,
they don't do it. It's just we click it, and they do the behind the scenes of getting it to the audience.
in particular with the landlords ads, they already had prepared that content about how to be a landlord.
Yeah.
We don't need to recreate it, so we just
It's great.
jumped on it.
So that one, we just shared the video, put our link up there,
Mhm.
put a couple of hashtags, and it was done. So
Awesome.
it's easy.
Mhm.
And so that's pretty much it. Just the last page is kind of a recap. We've been using the vision statement as a guide to determine, what's our focus going to be, because I think one of the big goals is to try to get the community to understand, like I said, what OSED is and what OSED does, because there's still people who don't know. And so taking the bits of that information and giving it a solid focus, like spring going into summer, we focused a lot on attainable housing. And we saw some traction there. And over the summer, with people thinking about the canal, we did a lot of focus on canal and complete community. And going into fall, the plan is to work on local employment and to present the way that OSED helps the community as a whole by helping the small businesses. So that's kind of where I think we're heading. We'll see. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions?
No, this is really fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to do this. And I also want to say real quick that I thank you so much for the support for the Fairport Plein Air that's coming up.
What's the
And,
date of that?
It's the 28th of September. Sorry, it should say September, not next week. It's coming up, and it's looking like it's going to be fun. We've got more artists signed up now than we did last year at this time, and half of them are brand new to us.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
One more public arts question. When's our public art coming?
I knew that was going to be a question too. That was going to be the other thing I was going to bring up. We talking about the bicentennial art piece in the Bicentennial Park, that the first piece did not work. There were problems with the materials, and so the art committee has the opportunity to self-select rather than going through the whole long process again. So there's an artist, his name I should know. I should have written it down in my notes. He created the first art piece that went on that pad outside the library. It was kind of an obelisk with a disc on the top. And he happens to have something similar that he already had. It's going to fit the location. And I talked to the village manager and somebody from DPW a couple of weeks ago, and they said it should be installed before September. So.
We're gonna have another opening?
Yeah.
Pick the last one.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I think this one will work out really well. This is an international artist, so that kind of gives us a little clout. We've got international
Did he
art.
submit on that one, the other ones?
He did not.
Oh, okay.
It was just because if we had to go through the whole call for art process, it would be another year and a half or more. So Sue Steele said, "Hey, what about the guy who did that thing?" And so she contacted him. And so hopefully before the end of summer, you'll see that art. Cool. Thank you.
Real quick, Pat, on this, just first a comment, two comments. Don't be nervous.
Thanks.
We're all rowing in the same direction. Appreciate your expertise. too, seeing the Section 8 housing program as the first page, I feel like this is success. I don't know. I mean, I feel like when we were working on the website and that investment, the idea was create another avenue for people to reach us and people that need information.
Yeah.
And seeing that as a high hit, I feel like folks are utilizing it in the way that we envision, which is awesome. Context-wise, do we have access to any information that you might have with similarly situated organizations in regards to context around some of these social media stats? I don't know if it exists or not. I'm just curious if the source of this information also provides access to other agencies'
So we can
data
see how we,
without specific without categories of organizations, I guess is what I'm envisioning.
Yeah.
Right, it wouldn't be another municipality organization data that we would be interested in, but other IDAs. Something I'm envisioning where they don't name names, but this is what other organizations involved in that type of work have as far as statistics in these same categories. Just for context, I wasn't sure if that's a thing or not.
I can look into that, because that would really be useful to know how we're doing, how we compare. To
Especially with it being newer for us, right, where we've invested in this and just trying to understand what good looks like.
Yeah, and I think the website is an excellent website, and you can see that people are finding the content that they need because of the fact that like the average use is like 50 seconds, which means they get there, oh, there's the thing I need, they go there and download what they need or look up the information, and then they don't have to spend a lot of time like hunting and pecking. So I think it's a great website, it really is.
Awesome. And the only other question that came to mind too was thoughts, at this point in time, we've been doing it for a little bit, we have a couple of quarters of data. Is there anything that you think of that we should be doing differently?
I think so when I think the original idea was that we wanted to get more followers and more people going to the website. So now that we've increased the number of followers on our social media and we're seeing an increase in the web views, I think now that we've got all those eyeballs, we need to decide, okay, what's the real goal here? What do we want them to be getting from us? Which is why we kind of started like working towards like this vision of let's focus on attainable housing and see if we see an increase. Let's focus on local employment and see, I'm not sure exactly, I haven't gotten there yet, so I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do as far as the local employment, but I think being able to show how OSET helps companies, that helps the community with jobs and trying to, the thing is, I'm not sure how I'm going to quantify whether that's successful. I haven't quite thought that through yet, but I think being able to look at for example, the number of people that we caught the attention of while we were focusing on attainable housing, I think doing the same thing with each of the 4 categories of the vision statement.
And also before, when we started with Black Dog, I did a baseline survey.
Okay.
Do you know we do this? Who does this? Or whatever.
Right.
What acronyms do you recognize? I have that data, that baseline.
Okay.
So we could put that back out at some point.
Yeah.
And see if there's any change in awareness about what we did.
Or even
So
use that data to say, see what people's answers were and then actively address that.
yes, yep. But that was, I've got that baseline somewhere.
Okay.
And if we can, track who comes back to the website too, if that's a category that we have access to.
I think we can. There's so much data in
There are
Google
cookies
Analytics.
involved.
Yeah.
Does that help us?
I'm sorry.
There are cookies involved with our
Yeah.
website. Does that help us?
Well,
or just
That's
that
actually
search
just the
engines?
browser. It's
Just the
for
browser.
But there is so much data that can be pulled out of Google Analytics. It's just a matter of what data do we want,
Okay.
basically. So I can look into that. Who was returning to the website. And
You're gonna have to screen me out.
yeah. It's probably already set up that your office hits from your office.
Don't,
Don't.
because I use that as a library
Yeah.
of things I need.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Most web designers will make sure that the organization, and I can check on that.
Oh,
but
that'd be
most web
great.
designers
Yeah.
make sure that you're blocked out so that you
Yeah,
get
we're not
actual-
skewing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But if there's other information that you want me to dig into, I'm happy to do that. Just let me know, let Martha know.
Mhm.
Or let me know.
I mean, I wonder if the New York State EDC has anything, just to get into Rob's question about like what other similar organizations are doing.
New York State.
EDC.
Oh, I'd work on that. The Economic Development Council.
Oh.
See if they have any
They're like an association.
data.
Of IDAs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.
Okay, still in new business. Governance Committee met back in July and spent some time with that. And I think did we circulate to the full board, or is this packet the first that the full board saw the changes?
This is the first time.
So a lot of cleanup work, Rob. You can talk to that. We have it on each of our agendas, and they're going to differ slightly, but the gist of it is cleanup and standardize
Yes.
some terms. So,
Yeah, and we met, it was mid-July, we got together, and we kind of reviewed a number of our policies. And we can start, I think what we covered in that session was bylaws, committee charters, code of ethics, and then we put a pin in the property disposition, acquisition, and indemnification. So based on what we've included in the packet, I think we need to, happy to talk through all of it, but the governance committee still needs to convene on details related to the property disposition, acquisition, and indemnification.
I don't think so. No, I think
We
do we
ended
need to
up,
bring those back to governance.
I don't think we went through all of the policies. There were
No,
one
we
or
did
two
not get
policies we
through
still
the
did
full.
not.
Oh, okay.
so for the policies, we did the board guidelines and the code of ethics and conflicts.
Okay.
And then
Got it.
we circled back, we put a pin in the disposition of property acquisition and indemnification. And we did work on employee handbook updates, Martha.
Right. And I did not include them here.
It's okay. So that's,
well, those aren't in the U of R one?
No.
Okay.
but we have another governance meeting scheduled for, I think it's the 26th of September, where we're going to finalize, so we can, coming out of that, we'll have another update, obviously, at the following meeting. But happy to overview the bylaws, committee charters, and the code of ethics updates. On the bylaw front, we reviewed and cleaned up language, so, and I know obviously at this point, Donna, you were the only board member that wouldn't have been in that room. So fire away with any questions, but I'll summarize. We reviewed and cleaned up language for the bylaws, specifically outside of kind of grammar updates that made it more applicable for each individual organization. Article 3 on the committees, we cleaned up language there. That would be on page 30 of our IDA package. So details related to the standing committees, and then individual audit committee, governance committee, and finance committee language, just to make that consistent across the board. underneath the individual committee charters. I'll give you a page where that starts here.
38.
Thank you, Norman. So the audit committee charter, no material changes on that front within the IDA realm. On the finance committee, you'll see we cleaned up language on the composition of the committees and member selection. Again, fire away if there's any questions specifically. We spelled out the finance committee duties. And as your role within that finance committee, certainly let us know if you have any questions. But all of it is based on our discussion and input from council, creating consistency across organizations.
So, so this language, so I read through the finance committee, right? Yeah.
Yep.
The finance committee where there seem to be the most changes. So so the scope of the committee, it's not changing. We're just getting more detailed, and we're aligning it with the language from the other committee charters
Yeah.
and the other organizations.
That was a big part
Is
of
that
it,
what
is
it is?
because
Okay.
these different organizations were chartered at different times. And
Oh, okay.
so that's the
Different
consistency
attorneys.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
the consistency Rob is talking about.
Okay. So it represents what we're actually
Right.
doing.
That
may
And there's
be
something
that
like
in-
new and,
This may be the same as LDC, that it was for the LDC.
okay, gotcha.
So essentially, it's aligning with how we are operating and identifying where there was inconsistency because prior council, we got the council creating it, so it's cleaner across the board.
Perfect, looks great.
Let's see here. Under meetings, section 4, similarly, just kind of putting language cleanly together across each organization, each of the 3 within the umbrella of OSET, so that it spells out exactly what the duties are. And again, it aligns with what is being done already. Let's see, governance committee charter. We clarified language around the committee composition, again, similar to what we did on the finance committee. That is it as far as the charters goes. Within the code of ethics, we updated the policy, just clarifying on prohibited actions, none of which should be too surprising. Just kind of clarifying and creating consistency across where you'll see some items redlined out, other items added.
Mhm.
But again, with the goal of creating consistency where appropriate across all the organizations. And that is the extent of what we discussed in detail. So any questions on that prior to we would make the recommendation of adopting the updates to the policies.
Including the disposition guidelines or not?
No.
Excluding, yeah,
Excluding the last
They're
2
here,
points.
but we're
Yep.
not.
Sorry, that was my error.
Okay. Okay.
So in regards to when you look at our agenda, it would be a recommended approval of the updates to the bylaws, the committee charters, the code of ethics,
Okay,
and the other 2 we will circle back on after we discuss.
got it. Okay. Looks good to me.
So that was Rob's motion.
I'll second.
And is there any further discussion or anything that Martha wants to add to that?
No? Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thanks to the work of the
Thanks.
governance committee. Thanks for doing this. These things are challenges,
Mm.
but they need to be done and looked at often, which is why we have the committee.
You bet. I appreciate council's help with all this as well. There's a lot of details that he puts together and advises on, so thank you.
All right, is there any other new business for IDA?
I don't know.
Anyone? Okay, take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, now next we will go to Fairport Urban Renewal. Okay, I'll call the August 19th, 2024 meeting of the Fairport Urban Renewal Agency to order. Ask if there's any public comment. Seeing hearing none, I'll close public comment and move to approval of the July 15th, 2024 URA meeting minutes.
Move to approve the minutes.
Sections? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Going to financial reporting, let's start with resolution 2024-08, authorizing payment of the URA bills.
I reviewed the bills and I would recommend moving their payment.
Second.
Any questions or anything to be called out? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution 2024-08, authorizing payment of the Section 8 bills.
I reviewed the bills and I recommend moving their payment.
I'll second.
Any questions regarding those bills? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, to the other financials, or again, kind of we're looking at the abbreviated version. Anything that we need with more detail is readily available. Don't have any questions on that. Okay, the loan status report, again, summary is what we've been provided here. Current. And front porch grant. Since we last met, we have two new ones.
Right, and that third one that was pending, they came in today to provide additional information, but also revealed that the project is underway. So
That was going to take some off the table.
correct. They did not,
That was the stoop.
no, that's not the stoop. This is a 4 square over on Miles Ave. They're rebuilding the porch in total, but it's already underway, so.
Okay. All right.
The stoop, I'm still working on getting additional information, so.
That's it for financials. Well, we can go right into old business and the front board application update. This is something that we all corresponded about and we're able to share our thoughts on it. And I think what Martha has put here captures it pretty well. So if you want to talk about that at all.
Well, it's follow up to our previous conversation. You know, we have had applicants that we consider stoop versus porch, and you can't really find a definition of that in code or anything. It's colloquial oftentimes, but I did look at, I went to how to design a good porch, how much space you need to have the door open, to have chairs and all that kind of thing. Talked with the building code officer as well as my home or our inspector about minimum widths and depths and so forth. So I came up with this language here that to ensure, because the point of the program is to build community. So to ensure spacious porches that will encourage gathering and provide opportunities to make connections and enhance our community, this grant program requires that the porch is a minimum width of 9 feet and a minimum depth of 6 feet and is fully covered by a roof in accordance with village building code. And then I actually, on the next line, based on my last couple of applications, I'm going to again reiterate in red, it's an incentive program. Projects must be approved for grant funding prior to beginning work. Even though they check that box later, they're often underway, or not often. There's too many occasions where projects are already underway. So I want to reiterate it right up front as well. So if that, and I also repeat the depth on the second page as well, 6x9. So if that, I think that is a better explanation of,
Yeah, it is. I mean,
Purpose of the
I just,
program.
I think once we started talking about it, and seating areas became kind of the big thing, as long as there's room to seat. I have a seating area that is not 6 foot deep.
right. Yeah, yes, correct.
So that may be something that comes back and asks someone to, it's 5 feet, but
Right. Well, I would say if you have a front door, it's gonna have to be at least the 4 feet, right?
Mhm.
Or, so, we can be flexible, but,
send it to the zoning board to get a variance.
Oh, I
So-
like this. I like this definition and putting it right up front. That's great.
I just think it's some of the older homes this may come up at some point.
I
Yeah.
think the older homes, I think of the 4 squares, and they are far bigger than 6x9. So there's gonna be an occasion, but we're trying to be more,
Front porch friendly.
well, no, we're trying to communicate our desires to applicants so that they don't get through the process.
Yep.
And, come in with a stoop. So,
But whether it's seating or convening, the thrust
Yes.
of it is
Yes.
a minimum size makes sense.
yes,
The only other thing I caught on here, I think it's great, but under grant amount, you want to throw a comma in the 4,000 or remove a comma out of the 2,000
oh,
as a second
thank
set
you.
of eyes for you.
Yep,
You got it.
thank you.
But I think it makes sense.
So we're gonna take action on that
Sure.
to approve
Mhm.
as written.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
Any other old business urban renewal?
I don't have any.
All right. Governance committee report, basically the same. I thought it may be different in that we were gonna put the personnel changes go into URA,
Mhm.
and we're not
They'll be
ready to,
next month.
we're
Mhm.
not ready to present those, so
That's right.
whatever you might wanna add about URA.
The bullet points I had to share to the group was just, section 3 of, starting with the bylaws, article 2, which is the board of directors section in each of these packets. We edited section 3 related to the removal language. We looked at section 6, which is the annual reporting expectations, on page 20 of this packet. Otherwise, small formatting edits. Article 3, the committee's article, starting on page 24. There was a section 8 related to the secretary role within the organization. We gave ourselves flexibility around that language. That's it on the bylaws front. Any questions on the bylaws piece? Committee charter, very similar. So this is almost identical organization, but the audit committee, we created consistency across the organizations, specifically section 3 and with the composition. Within the finance committee, page 35 of this packet, section 3, composition of the committee language, section 4, the meetings language, essentially exactly what we just spoke about in our prior meeting. Governance committee, page 39, composition of the committee language. And then no change to the code of ethics within the URA.
Then it was
Questions on that front?
Rob's motion to
Yeah.
approve.
And I'll second.
And then any questions or further discussion regarding those? Thanks to the governance committee for working on this. We will revisit property disposition and identification. Any other new business for urban renewal?
You gotta vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any other new business for urban renewal? Anyone? Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, I will now call the, sorry, screen up here. Call the August 19th, 2024 meeting of the Fairport Local Development Corporation to order. It's for public comment. And no one seeing, no one will close that and move to the approval of the July 15th LDC meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion or corrections? All in favor? Moving into financials, we have resolution 2024-08 authorizing payment of the LDC bills.
I've reviewed the bills and I recommend moving their payment. The 1539 has not been closed yet, so that hasn't gone out the door. Closed that one.
I will second.
Questions?
And I think you'll see there the facade grant for Tony Pitnero's building at 100 North Main. So I think he'd spent over $46,000.
I ran into him and complimented him on the project, and he was just so happy to hear that people liked it.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion, second, and now we get to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, financial statements and loan status report. We have a long summary. Go ahead.
Yes, I was going to say that the past due was only past due like 10 days because there was a fixed payment period and initially at $500, and it was 12 months ago, and now it's the full payment. So I picked up a check on Saturday. So we're fine, and that's an auto pay.
So we're not
It'll be
past due.
corrected. We're not past due.
And facade program, any new applications or?
No, I would have included them.
Any, are you circling about, talking about wanting to do things?
Not really, no. I reached out directly to everyone that I talked to. Then we ran the ads to let people know that we were winding down the program. Now there's a few applicants that we approved. It's going on like close to 9 months. So I'm starting to circle back with those that they have to finish up. So, but we'll be, obviously, we'll work through anything, but I'd like to get as many closed prior to our year end at 9:30 as possible. But you can see some of them are going to be in next year.
Okay. For financials, any old business LDC?
I don't have any.
Anyone? New business. Go ahead, Rob.
All right.
Governance committee.
Similar story, but on the LDC front, starting with the bylaws, again, meaningful updates to the membership, Article 2, Article 3, the Board of Directors, Section 6 of that, Article 3, annual reports updated that language. Slightly different here, section 13 references seeker, which again, with guidance from Ed, our counsel, clarified that it's not applicable to organizations, so we are striking that. Similar updates to the committees in Article 4 around the composition of the committees and the meetings. Actually, forgive me, Article 4, yeah, the committees, the composition of the committees. And then on the committee charters, updates to the composition of the committees and the meetings and actions taken by each organization or each committee. And then no meaningful change to the code of ethics within the LDC docs. So happy to go into deeper detail or answer questions or recommend approval.
Is there a second?
There is a second, yep.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions regarding any of that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
I'd like to echo the chair's thanks to the committee, because when we have the authority's budget office as well as its state comptroller. And so this shows the evidence about us really taking our governance seriously. We've got it documented, we meet, we really do these things, and that matters very
We're
much.
not just checking the box.
Nope. No.
Good team effort. Appreciate your help with it too, Martha.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. Next new business item is the Thomas X. Grasso Memorial. So I'll kind of start that off.
On your handouts was a letter we received with regard to this, subsequent to the package going out.
For any of you,
Page 53.
I know I just.
Oh, okay.
So, hold on. For any of you that are not familiar with Tom Grasso, Tom was a professor of geology, I believe, was his basis, and he many years ago took an interest in the Erie Canal, and he was the pioneer in the resurgence of the canal. Canal New York, did he start that one?
No, I don't know. He's the historical Canal Society he was involved
Canal
with.
Society.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, he was just involved in everything. He was at every conference. He always wanted to, when they were doing the aqueduct, where the city of Rochester was talking about their reimagine and doing it. And one of his sayings was, just add water, to re-water the aqueduct, to have that be out there. But he was just involved in so many things. He was a local guy, Pittsburgh,
Right.
But spent an awful lot of time in Fairport, was involved in our projects. And Tom passed away this past year, and it's a great loss for the canal community. So a couple of gentlemen, Brett Costello and Jim Farr, wanted to do a memorial for Tom on the canal, and they've taken it upon themselves to start this initiative. They've got support from the Canal Authority. The location is in the village. I talked with Brian White about this, and he's happy to write a letter of support. I don't know if any of you can picture where this little spot is. It's between the bridges on the north side of the canal. It's a little bump out. There's a couple of old benches in there.
Before you get to
The weir.
the creek.
Yeah, very close to the weir.
Oh, okay.
And it's an unused portion. Well, no, people will sit on those benches, but it's not really used. It's already paved, with pavers in it. And what they're proposing to do is to clean up the pavers. The village may have scheduled already to add new benches in that area. It was already scheduled. So these are the old wooden benches that are in there now. And basically on the north end of that bump out, they would be building a wall out of canal stone and installing a 24 by 36, right?
I think that's
Bronze
right.
plaque, kind of telling Tom's story. And so they've taken upon themselves to do that initiative. They're going to be, the two men who I mentioned, they're actually funding it for doing the plaque themselves. They're providing that. And so Martha and I met with them and went over, and they gave us, and then you'll see a little sketch plan. There's nothing real dramatic. It's pretty much using the existing footprint, cleaning it up, putting in maybe some new plantings, but just very subtle little memorial right there that people can go and read Tom's story. So
Tom was a frequent presenter at all the World Canal Conferences. The canal installation out there on the thruway, that's
that
Tom.
was all his.
100% Tom. Tom
That poor pirate.
fought off the New York State Thruway Authority and got that thing built. He's, well known throughout the community, great friend, to Brian Stratton and that, the Canal Corporation, and a good guy.
And
So,
he and Cal were really,
Yeah.
really close.
yes.
Hmm.
So we met Cal and Bill Miles and Jim Farr, and Brett and I met out one evening when they were starting to create this project. And so we also met with Tom's widow, Corolla, and they used to spend, although they lived outside of the village, they would spend a lot of time here. And
On the
so-
Donnelly's deck, in
Yes.
Mo Connery's deck, drinking pints of
Stella,
Stella.
that's right. So I'm thrilled that this is coming forward, because Tom was a visionary and got things done.
This project, the total scope of it, their budget, which they have not refined, but is minimal. It's about $15,000 or something like that.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
so they've asked if we wanted to donate, and we said we'll bring it to the board. I had in mind maybe $1,000 donation. I don't know.
It's certainly within the budget. We have monies still available within our community support budget. And this project's already gotten the endorsement of New York State Canal Corp. The village, with their benches and so forth, they're amenable to it. So I'm happy to see this come forward to the board.
Yeah, I'm on board for the $1,000 recommendation. I think it's great that
It's good.
We
It
can
just
do that
really
here and celebrate
honors,
him here.
it just really honors somebody, and it's a canal and our canal front enhancement as well.
He was at the opening of that.
That's right.
He was, and
At the
remember,
north
he
side.
got taken away in an ambulance that day.
Mhm.
He
Yep.
was sick.
Okay.
Yep.
It was hot.
And what they've planned is attractive and low key and
It's a nice
real.
look, it's a good
Natural.
location.
And canal stones, was kind of the backdrop to it.
sounds like a nice tribute. It's also a point of interest along.
Yes.
Yes, it
We'll
is.
It
just celebrate the
absolutely is.
history, and sounds like
Right, and
I'm
it's
learning he's a
the
big part of
perfect area for it, because it's already meant to someone to sit there and now they'll learn something more about the canal, so it's great.
I like it.
Second Rob's motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Hi.
Aye, thank you.
Thank you.
We have an executive session on the agenda. Is there anything else LDC before we call the executive session?
Just whoever leaves, lock the door. Okay? Lock the door on your way out.
I should take care of that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to enter executive session?
Just to note the financial.
Oh, right, discuss the
So
financial
moved, it's to discuss financial
or credit history of a particular
of a
person
particular person.
or corporation.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Wait, yeah.